This week, tune into the Paul Finebaum Show as I discuss
the delicious taste of ice cold Dr. Pepper.
Larry Culpepper? Hey, I'm in the middle of a promo.
Sorry, Finey. The fans are craving so much Dr. Pepper, I thought I'd borrow some of your airtime.
Security!
Hey, look, whether you're watching college football or calling into some guy's radio show, Dr. Pepper makes college football that much sweeter. So head to your local Dollar General and grab some today.
Can I have one of yours?
Hey, we got a caller. You're on the Larry Culpepper Show with your host, Larry Culpepper.
That's it.
That's Dr. Pepper, the one fans crave.
This is the best
Do you hear me?
of the Paul Finebaum Show podcast.
Pete, always a pleasure. Hope the end of the season has been good to you. We appreciate you being on. So, in your history of covering college football, which is extensive, with this. Not as extensive as mine, by the way, in terms of length, but and longevity. But how bizarre was this coaching carousel?
It was surreal, I guess would be the best way to describe it. It was just different, Paul. And I think the early signing day changed everything. So it was quicker than usual, except for Tennessee's case, and just. Everything happened. It was almost like predetermined, in a lot of ways, because everything had to unfold fast to get to the signing day, which I guess is a week from today now. Everything just had to go a lot faster. So it was, it was sort of like orderly chaos in a timing way, and then just the way Tennessee unfolded was obviously crazy. And then, I think this will be remembered, Paul, as the year that buyouts were treated like dandruff, right? I mean, you have staggering amounts of money, and institutions are just brushing it off their shoulder. So, and then there was, surprises like Herm Edwards. I know as an ESPN employee, and no one at ESPN is allowed to criticize Herm Edwards.
No, I thought it was a bizarre hire. I didn't like it at all.
Okay. All right, yeah. I mean, look, it could work. By all accounts, he's a good man, and sure, everybody at ESPN liked him. But even more bizarre, right, was the press release heralding his the ode to corporate jargon, the Office Space special. So it had a little bit of everything. When you really roll through it, I'm going to kind of through all the movies on my mind. I think there were 12 Power 5 jobs, and which I guess as a number isn't like completely out of the ordinary. That's essentially two per power conference, right? But I think the caliber of some and the fact that there were 6 in the SEC obviously made everything a little bit more fun, Paul.
Yeah, let me ask you about Tennessee, and I'm sure you've already heard from some Tennessee fans. I read your remarks about Tennessee. I'll let you put it in your words, but I don't want to be uncharitable to you, but you didn't seem like you were very impressed, Pete.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was a searing debacle from beginning to end. And what's been interesting to sort of see the evolution of the Tennessee fan base and all Twitter and whatever it is, like sort of grow their confidence throughout as they realized they had more and more sway. And the chancellor at Tennessee, Beverly Davenport, who just proved like totally and completely feckless. She's there, like her voice is quivering because she's firing John Curry, and then 30 seconds later, Phil Fulmer's like, my daughter's here, and my granddaughter, and my wife's in Toronto. Like, it was just such a bizarre way it unfolded with so little just awareness to everything that was smoldering around them. And my point in that was simple. I will certainly give Jeremy Pruitt a chance. He obviously comes from Nick Saban and obviously won a national title at Florida State, was very good at Georgia. So, I mean, he certainly has a pedigree, but it's incomparable to think that he's as qualified as Greg Schiano, who was, National Coach of the Year, coached 120 college games. Mike Leach has coached a lot more college games than that, and they had Mike Leach right on the line and ready to go. I mean, those are experienced, accomplished, high-end college football coaches. And it felt like they traded in for one of their own, and they wanted to do that, and everyone's celebrating in Tennessee because they have a part of it, and just the bottom line pragmatist and analyst in me, and I'd be curious what you think, Paul, but just thinks, boy, they had 2 better football coaches that were ready to go there, and the dysfunction, and then Fulmer's ego came in and blew the second one up.
Let me start with Schiano because, as you probably could guess, because you hear all the same things, Pete. The reaction from Tennessee fans was like, we got rid of a bad guy, and we're much better off today. And I don't know, sometimes you talk yourself into that or not, but that has been a constant theme coming out of Tennessee.
No, it has, and it's surprising. Now, look, I was at the New York Times when Schiano was at Rutgers, so I saw the single worst program in major college football become a top 10 program. And consistently, I just saw the Patriots today picked up Kenny Britt. I live up in Boston now. So, like, the Patriots have the McCourty, or one of the McCourty twins. Like, if you look at Logan Ryan was a defensive back here for a long time. You look at the amount, like the sheer volume of quality NFL players that Rutgers put out, none of whom were particularly highly recruited or ballyhooed. He had what anyone who was around college football during that time, he had a run that was considered miraculous. Now, when you take the first couple of years and you throw the record in there, it's a nose above 500. But for what he did there, it was staggering. I mean, he completely resuscitated a program that was just a mockery. And so one of the things that I've seen a couple times on Twitter and from some of the fan media down there is that, well, no one else wanted him in this coaching cycle. Well, yeah, he tarred and feathered the guy's reputation and put on a rock that he enabled child rape or whatever the mistruth, half-truth was of that. And so, obviously, after he got tarred and feathered like that, no school was going to run out and get him. But he had been involved, Paul, in the last 2 years in Oregon when it went to Taggart, in USC when it went to Clay Helton, in South Carolina, in Miami. I mean, it was not like they took this guy out of a frozen block. He was a coveted candidate who turned down some reasonable high-end jobs just because of fit and family and different things like that. So to me and to most people around college football, the notion of him going to Tennessee was like, oh, that's a pretty good fit. They probably need someone to come in and resuscitate the culture there and really instill a program. And, Tennessee is not going to be like Alabama or Florida where you're going to live on three and dones. You need to develop. And he's certainly proven he can do that at a high level. And people forgot he recruited Florida as well as anyone when he was at Rutgers. Remember, he put the billboards up there and the whole deal. So there's real recruiting relationships in a place where Tennessee needs to be good if they're going to eventually start winning SEC games again.
Well, I mean, I certainly understand that, and there are some very concerning issues in relation to Pruitt. You compare Leach. You mentioned Schiano, and you have Jeremy Pruitt, who has been a very good coordinator, but there is a learning curve. What do you expect from him?
He could be good, Paul, but there's zero track record. That's a tough place to go and make your mistakes, right? And handle what has proven to be a pretty difficult media base and play in a league where obviously Georgia has it going again. Dan Mullen's a proven commodity, and he'll have it. You would think he'll have it going again at Florida sooner than later. So. The point in saying that he was an inferior coach for those guys is simply statistical. Like, those guys have done it for over a decade in difficult places and proven they can win, and they have a style and everything where they've shown they can do it. And look, two of the coaches in the playoffs were unproven assistants, within the last 18 months, right? And they're really good. So it is certainly possible to do that. And one of the best things Jeremy Pruitt has going for him is that the bar has been set unbelievably low, right? You can't get any worse than 0-8 in the SEC. So, incremental progress is going to be viewed as giant progress, right? But there is a lot of unknown and a lot of risk with Jeremy Pruitt inherent to promoting a guy's first job to being a head coach in the SEC.
Final question. It got lost in the shuffle briefly because it came down on the busiest day in modern SEC history, but Jimbo Fisher leaving FSU to go to A&M. How do you judge that hire?
Yeah, well, it's funny. What else got lost that day was the Ole Miss decision was that day too,
yes.
by the NCAA. But look, Jimbo Fisher's obviously a proven, competent, really good head coach, right? He's won a national title. he's won something like 80% of his games. At least he was there going into this season. I think it's a good hire, but I also one of my friends joked with me. Well, are they give does he get to bring Jameis Winston with him for $75 million? The last three seasons have been pretty flat mediocre there, and his record the last 3 years isn't all that different than Kevin Sumlin's record the last 3 years. It's a little bit better, but not much. So he has not had a great staff at Florida State the past couple of years, Paul, and I just think like. When you pay a guy that much and you guarantee it, which is insane, and then you say, hey, you got to come win championships, you're setting yourself up for failure in a way. So, again, I think it's going to be fascinating. I think it adds even more juice to the SEC West, but by no means can I jump on a table and say Jimbo Fisher is going to go to Texas A&M and win multiple national championships. He just let Dabo Swinney clearly pass him and clearly pass Florida State as the best program in the ACC, and now he has to topple Nick Saban, and that's not simple.
We're late in the segment. I want to make sure you can win a few more friends in the SEC. You mentioned Ole Miss. Some have actually spun that as it could have been a lot worse. You followed this. You've broken a lot of stories on the Ole Miss case. Your final disposition on the ruling?
I think if you had asked me like 2 years ago what they'll end up getting, I probably would have said a 2-year bowl ban, which is a significant punishment. And a lot of times with these investigations, Paul, and certainly you've been around them for decades, is, a lot of your punishment comes with the length of the scrutiny. And now they're obviously going to feel it with the transfers and everything. I actually thought they'd lose more scholarships. I was a little bit surprised that ended up a little bit lighter than it was. But I think that what was interesting, probably the most out of that, now that I think back about it on that crazy Friday afternoon, was that like the university is still standing on a table and saying they didn't do anything wrong and didn't appreciate the NCAA's rhetoric. They're like, they are going to fight this to the very end. And, the column I wrote from that was that they basically wrote a manual of how to not handle an NCAA investigation. And to their credit, they're going to kick and scream like Mike Garrett did at USC, right into the bitter end.
Well done. Pete Thamel, thanks so much for your time, Pete.
Paul, thank you.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I've never felt more alive.
Disclaimer. Geico cannot guarantee you will feel more alive. You either possess functioning respiratory and circulatory systems, or you do not, or you are a zombie. If you are indeed a brain-starved zombie and you would like to save money on car insurance, the Geico legal team applauds your excellent life choices, even in your shambling afterlife. But we strongly encourage you to visit geico.com or download the Geico app. Please stay a minimum of 500 feet away from our large and presumably delicious, delicious brains.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
A lot of guests coming up and a lot of phone callers to get to. Let's go to Fred in Little Rock. Fred, thanks. Good afternoon.
How you doing, Paul?
We are doing great. Thank you.
Hey, Paul, I've been trying to get on this show for the longest, but I got a question I want to ask you, Paul.
Thank you.
What do you think about Georgia winning the college football championship? It's been 37 years, Paul.
Well, I mean, listen, right now you're talking about 2 wins away. The odds start going up, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, it is going up. It's going high.
You like their chances?
I love it.
Right now, I do like them against Oklahoma. There's no way you can predict the next game because you don't know who they're playing.
Yeah, we don't know who they're playing, but I'd rather for Georgia to play Alabama the next game.
Really?
Yeah, SEC will just take it off, Paul.
That would be great. Hey, I'm with you on that. Shara's up next. Good afternoon.
Hey, Paul. How you doing?
Great, Ed. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
What's going on, Ed?
Got a phone call this afternoon which surprised the hell out of me from Luann.
Really?
Yep, she didn't sound like Luann, that's for sure, because she got such a sore throat.
Right.
But she's doing fine.
I'm glad to hear that. Appreciate you sharing that with us.
She spent, Rich asked me to call. He said, you do it better than I do in this thing. But she spent 8 hours in surgery, had to have blood and this and that. She also had her ear operated on while she was there.
Well, I'm really glad to hear she's doing well. You doing okay, Ed?
Yeah, I'm doing, I have to go Friday for a blood test. I went yesterday to the contagious disease specialist, and he doesn't like the report from the hospital on my Lyme disease. He says it wasn't complete enough.
Okay.
So he wants me to go for a blood test Friday, and we see how that comes out. And then I just got to think I'm okay. I don't have any of the symptoms. So I guess I'm doing okay. I'm just anxious, and finally, a couple of weeks, my team's going to be playing.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, Ed, we have a lot of time to talk about that. You stay well. Thanks for the update on Luann. That's nice of you to share. Joe is up next in Florida. Good afternoon, Joe.
Hey, Paul. Thanks for taking my call. Love the show. Keep up the good work.
Appreciate it.
Question, as a Gator fan, how fast can Dan Mullen transition this team to have the offense firing on all cylinders? I know they got this kid, Matt Corral in California, QB, that's probably coming. How long do you think it's going to take?
I don't think that long. Certainly, this is a turnaround, but this is not a total reclamation project. I think Dan Mullen knows the terrain. It's just, I wouldn't say the first year, but I don't think it's going to take that much long after that.
All right. Well, that's good to hear. Can I give you an interesting fact? I know you said you wanted to see the new Churchill movie. Can I give you
of course.
A little-known fact about him?
Sure.
He's British to the T. He's the face of Britain, but a lot of people don't know he was half American. His mother and her family is from America. That she was born in Brooklyn and spent most of her life there.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
So he is half American, so we can claim half of him.
Okay. Well, I'm
Thanks
all
for
in.
taking my call, Paul.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that information. Let's continue with more calls. And Dixie is up next. How are you?
Hello, am I on?
Yes, you are. You are on.
Yeah, I'm out working in the yard. Listen, I've been seeing out a lot of people from Arkansas advocating for John Chavis to come up there and be defensive coordinator. That ain't ever going to happen. Mm-hmm. Number one, from what I hear, they're going to hire the defensive coordinator off of Clemson's staff. And number two, John Chavis is the most overrated defensive coordinator. He just got Kevin Sumlin fired down there because UCLA come back on John Chavis defense. I've been seeing him screw things up since he was up at the University of Tennessee. And let me tell you something. Niall Davis, every running back we've ever had, has ran through us John Chavis defense like a hot knife through butter. So you can take that to the bank. And, hey, all you people down in Alabama, don't break your arm patting yourself on the back because you elected a Democrat. Because let me tell you something. That Judge Roy Moore, one, he shouldn't be called a judge because he got kicked off the bench twice for violating the Constitution. He's a terrible human being, and I don't care about him being a West Point graduate. Simplify on that.
Wish I was in the land of Dixie. Isn't that her name? Did they name it after her? Thanks for the call. Wow. Tony is up next in Colorado. How are you, Tony?
Good, Paul. I've called in a couple of times before, and I enjoy listening to your show every day.
Thank you.
Kind of hate to follow up on that lady that called about John Chavis, and I don't want anybody to lose a job, but it probably is time for him to retire. My brother and I were talking the other day, and I'm a diehard LSU fan, and we were so happy when he left LSU. And my brother gave me some stats the other day. He said, since Chavis has left, we have averaged 40 points a game against Texas A&M, had averaged 510 yards on offense, and have not lost to Texas A&M. So he is just too conservative when the fourth period comes around, and you don't want to be in that situation with a game you're leading.
I agree. I don't think there's a real appetite for him. His stint at A&M was certainly less than spectacular. Appreciate the call very much. Jim is up next.
Well, I'm eating a pizza, man. Paul,
hold on, sir. What type of pizza are you eating, Jim?
I love it. I know you're not going to like it, but it's brand new, hot, Domino, $8.75 with tax.
I like Domino's.
Well, okay.
What's on the pizza?
I'm telling you, this is the best pizza I've ever had in my life.
I am going. Well, Jim, I'm going to talk for a second. You finish your piece here. I can see during the Super Bowl, Jim doing Domino's commercials.
That would be good.
Jim, what type of topping do you have?
Paul, I'm enjoying the pineapple, pepperoni, and Italian sausage blend.
Nah,
combination.
Way too much for me, Jim.
All right, let me get to the call. We did the commercial.
Okay.
How much did they give us for that?
Yeah. By the way, Jim, I was mainly giving you a chance to finish your pizza. Okay,
I got it out of my mouth. I'm still holding it, but
that was my in television. That's called vamping.
I got you. Okay, thank you very much. I got to comment on Tammy's brother from another sister's mother, Dixie.
Yeah.
I mean, Dixie sounded exactly like Tammy. She sure talked like Tammy, but she's putting down Roy Moore. What's the problem with Roy Moore?
I don't know. I didn't follow that election very closely.
I know. I just heard you call Doug Jones and congratulate him right after Clinton called.
Had to wait for Bill to hang up.
Hold your call through the Clinton call.
Yeah, I was next online.
That's what they said. They said he was overjoyed to hear from you. He wants to get back on the show now and talk about it. I guess you'll let him on, right?
I think you know my policy, Jim. We have steered away from.
Yeah,
we have steered
you've
away
changed
from
elections in Alabama for about 10 years.
Well, I don't think I had any effect on this one.
Well, I know, but Tim James, you buried Tim James before he got started.
Yeah, but I was in Alabama back then. I don't feel like I should try to affect the outcome of the Alabama election.
Okay, what was the guy's
else.
name? I can't even remember. Richard, what's his name?
Which one?
The one that was against Moore. I mean, against Tim. The guy that went to prison, Paul. Your friend, your other good friend.
Hey, Jim, I've had so many friends go to prison.
One of your many friends that you.
I honestly can't remember all of my friends who were in prison. Or that was Richard Scrushy, I think.
Yeah, Richard Scrushy.
Yeah.
Richard Scrushy.
Scrushy.
Anyway, it's a fun show, Paul.
Hey, by the way, Jim, I went through a stretch in Alabama. I bet I had five friends in prison simultaneously.
I know you did. You had exactly 5 in prison at the same time. And Siegelman went in the next month, and you had 6.
And then you had the mayor of Birmingham, Langford.
But is Larry still around?
He's still in prison.
What did he call me? What did he call me that day? I can't remember. He called me
he called you a turkey.
A turkey, that's right.
By the way, Jim, I used to go to the federal pen. I didn't even have to show ID. They just said, come on in. Hey, wait, Mr. Finebaum, come on in.
Now, that's hilarious. This is good stuff, Paul. This will win the award.
Yeah.
By the way, talking about the award, they called me a while ago. They wanted to know how they can get in touch with Danny, the first caller that couldn't stand me, said I was in a fairy tale. Let me tell you something, Danny. If it was a fairy tale, I would never hear your voice. So this is no fairy tale. But they want to get in touch with him. They want to give him the. Wait a minute, I got to think about how it goes. The Don't Hate Jim Because You Ain't Him award.
I hear it. No, that's it, Jim. Well, listen, you go back to your pizza. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, you go back to Ed, all right?
That's okay.
Thank you.
You're listening to the Paul Finebaum Show podcast.
Joe, thanks for the time. You come highly recommended.
Well, thanks for having me, Paul. It's an honor to be on your show.
So, Joe, you're a 4-time pizza champion. Is that like winning the Nathan's hot dog eating contest? What does that mean?
It's not eating. It's more or less cooking.
Making?
Making. I don't eat it. I'm a 2-time Guinness World Record holder and a 4-time World Pizza Champion.
Okay, I get it. That sounds cool. So you're a New Yorker, right?
Yes, sir. Born and raised.
So give us the backstory. I think I understand most people from New York since my family's from New York, but at what age did you start learning the vagaries of pizza?
Oh, when I was in my teens, early teens, about 13, I started as a busboy back in New York, and I worked my way up through the years and finally made it to making a pizza. And my in-laws, my sister's family, got me started, and they were right off the boat from Italy. They didn't give me any recipes, so I had to learn from scratch.
Tell me this, because I'm in New York a lot. I'm going to be there soon. Where's the best place to eat pizza in New York?
John's.
Is that the one in near the theater district?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's the original.
Yeah, I've eaten there. I will tell you, I've eaten there twice, and I have to agree with you. The pizza there is better than any place I've ever eaten pizza.
Yeah, there's not even a second I would even give you a recommendation to go to. It's like asking somebody who do they like, Alabama or Auburn. It's not going to be one or the other. It's not going to be both of them.
Yeah, no, it's funny because I've eaten a lot of places. Pizza is one of my favorite foods, even though people don't think I eat. So what about pineapple on pizza?
Putting pineapple on pizza is like asking an Alabama fan to wear an Auburn jersey all day or an Auburn fan to wear an Alabama fan. Some things you just don't do. And putting pineapples on pizza is one of them. I can't say it any more clearer than that.
Well, John and Mark, are you guys around? Because you're the guys eating pineapple on pizza.
I will take total blame for this. I'm the one in the control room standing up for the pineapple.
Salty and sweet. He's a big salty and sweet.
I like the salty, and the pineapple adds a little bit of sweetness to the pizza. But to Mark's credit, you said you didn't like it.
I'm not a fan.
And the 4-time world pizza champion says no pineapple on the pizza. So maybe from this point moving forward, I won't order pineapple on my pizza.
Well, and Jim started it, by the way.
There's a million more toppings you can put on a pizza, but pineapple is just not one of those million things that I would ever suggest to try. Paul, have you ever had pineapple on pizza?
So let me. You've moved to Alabama, correct?
Yes, sir.
Always curious. Athens, Alabama is North Alabama, not too far from Huntsville, right?
Right, correct.
Okay. What brought you to Alabama?
Totora's restaurant in Hampton Cove. The owner hired me as a consultant, and I came down about 10 years ago, and I loved it. The Southern hospitality just brought me down even more.
And do I understand correctly? You now have a pizza place in Athens?
Yeah, Joe's World Famous Pizzeria right across from Chick-fil-A on 72 in Athens, Alabama. I call that my home now.
So would you say your pizza is comparable to New York pizza?
I would say my pizza is a step up of New York pizza because I'm over here making it. It's very close to the style you're going to get in New York. In fact, we'd love to make you one day.
Oh, I'd love it. By the way, as a pizza aficionado, what? Forget the pineapple. Nobody in their right mind would put pineapple on pizza. But what's the key to a great pizza?
The sauce and the crust. It's the combination. You need, people don't realize a lot of pizza guys, they're chemists. It's not just flour, water. It's a lot of science stuff going behind the scenes to make the perfect crust, to get that light, fluffy feel when you bite into it.
I've always wondered about serving a pizza because, to me, I want that pizza to be steaming hot when I get it, but too often it's not when you're at a restaurant. How do you overcome that?
Well, we have a wood-fired oven that cooks up to 900 degrees, so it only takes about a minute and 20 seconds to cook, and when it comes out, it's piping hot. You can't even eat it.
Okay.
In fact, we have a mobile wood-fired oven. I would love to come down to your radio station and just make you guys some real pizza one day.
Are you kidding? These two guys in the other room. They were eating. With all due respect, what was the name of that pizza, Mark and John?
Hungry Howie's. Yeah.
Hungry Howie's.
Hungry Howie's?
Yeah.
I'm not even going to comment on that. I'll plead the fifth on that, Paul.
Okay. And Jim called earlier. He had just gotten a Domino's, which, again, I get it. So
we will come down with our truck.
Okay, we'll figure it out.
We have a mobile wood-fired, and we will make these gentlemen pizza without pineapple, though. That's the only catch.
I eat cheese pizza. I'll put a little bit. I'm not. My wife eats pepperoni. What are the best toppings to lock in the best flavor of a pizza?
Pepperoni, sausage, mushrooms. We have a pizza called the Rolling Tide. It has mushrooms, peppers, onions, meatball, sausage, and pepperoni. And then we have a pizza that's called the Aubie, which is mushroom peppers, banana peppers, green tomatoes, and red onions. Okay. But the most popular one is probably the Supreme. But I would say, for me personally, pepperoni, and we use a sweet Italian sausage. We get all of our meats from Chicago, so they're really high-quality meats that we get.
Now, again, I'm not a connoisseur. I like cheese pizza, maybe one topping, usually not. But, Joe, when you start piling all these other toppings on, doesn't it take away from the sauce? Doesn't it take away from the taste?
I'm with you. For me personally, I like cheese. But when you have a good mixture of toppings and good flavors, it actually is really good. And, mushrooms, sausage, pepperoni, and peppers, people like it. It's a good flavor. It's a good combination. So when you're biting into that, you're getting all those flavors. Me personally, I'm like you. I like a simple cheese pizza. When I go to another pizza place, I like to eat just a cheese pizza because I like to really see how the sauce is, how the cheese is, and how the dough is, and how the crust is crunchy or not.
Okay. And by the way, before we go, your place is in what's the name of your place again in Athens?
Joe's World Famous Pizzeria in Athens, Alabama.
Okay. Is that right off the interstate?
It's right on. It's about a quarter mile down from the interstate, right down the road. You're welcome here anytime, Paul. Anytime. We'd love to make you a cheese pizza. No pineapple, though.
Well, listen, this has been fun. Joe, you're the official Finebaum Show pizza expert. We will be calling on you often.
I appreciate it. And roll Eagle, Paul.
You got it. Hey, thanks so much. Welcome back as we continue here. More of your calls and comments at 855-242-7285. Casey is in New Jersey. Welcome to the show, Casey. Good afternoon.
Hey, Paul. Yesterday I was listening. Congratulations on the 6-iron hole-in-one at Shoal Creek. That's some hell of a shot there, man.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's been a few years, but nice of you to say.
One of the great courses in the country. Hosted a PGA, and Trevino won there. And that's anytime you could do that at a place like that, that's memorable. And also on the Rich idea with the charity, I'm all in. If I could donate equipment, or if I could get down there, being it's July and my season is busy here in July, but whether I can play or not, but if I can donate something, I'm more than willing to help out the charity in any way.
Casey. We'll figure that. We'll figure it out, and I appreciate your offer.
Anything for you guys on the football coming up? I know it's 3 weeks away, but it's going to be interesting to see. You were talking yesterday about the ratings. Georgia, Alabama, maybe in the final. I think I don't know if that would be a poor rating game. I think everybody's intrigued about Alabama being that they're a 4 seed and getting into the playoffs, and then Georgia, basically dominating an entire year except for maybe one bad half against Auburn, my team, but. Be one hell of a game if that was the final, especially for the SEC and our show. Your show, all the fans watching. It'd be one hell of a week of banter. So I'm rooting for that game. Hopefully,
I can't imagine what that week would be like here. It would be just unbelievable.
Yeah, it'd be phenomenal. That would be a game. I would go to that game for sure. I would, especially this time of year. I could do it. So anyway, I'm in for the charity and love watching the show as usual. Thanks for taking the call.
What a pleasure to hear from you, Casey. Casey, who's a PGA professional in New Jersey, calling us on this cold winter day up there. Thank you very, very much. William is in Nevada, and you are next up. William, go right ahead.
Hey, Paul. Good afternoon. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks a lot.
Good. Well, I'm a longtime listener, a big fan. I just got a couple comments and then a question for you and your guys. First off, I got to go on the record. I think the Dogs are going to smoke Oklahoma. I think their defense is just too good, and I think Oklahoma's defense is just not that good. Secondly, I wanted to say that as a prior athlete, it really blows my mind when coaches and players aren't excited about playing in a bowl game, regardless of what the bowl game is. Just as a competitor, the opportunity to play in another game, I would think, would just be motivation enough. And then lastly, my question for you guys is, what do you guys think about these players that sit out of these bowl games?
I think it really depends. I did not have a problem last year with Fournette, who was banged up, McCaffrey, who was banged up. I don't like a player who just sits out because he doesn't want to get hurt. But I certainly understand it. Some of the bowl games, just let's be honest, are laughable.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you taking my call,
you very much.
Paul, and have a great day.
Great to hear from you. Good to hear. Good stuff. Let's continue. Casey is in Louisiana. Casey, thank you. Good afternoon.
Hello, Paul.
Hey there.
Enjoying your show.
Thanks
and
a lot.
I watch it just about every day that I can. I enjoy. What I wanted to say was a while ago y'all was talking about a guy from Louisiana about the coaches and about how Jimbo Fisher, and before he took over at Florida State, Bobby Bowden, before he took over at Florida State, why he didn't come to a Southeastern Conference school. Just for a little bit of history, back in 1979, LSU was seeking a coach. And LSU's first pick choice was Bo Ryan, the one that got killed,
right,
which LSU actually took. And Bobby Bowden was number 2 on that list.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
Yes, sir. And Bobby Bowden wanted to come to LSU. He wanted to come here. The simple reason was they was in the middle of they were playing Florida State. LSU was playing Florida State for 5 years in a row. Florida State, and when Bobby Bowden first went there, he chose to play most of his games on the road. He wasn't choice about having home games. And those 5 years, all 5 games was at Tiger Stadium. They was not in Florida State. And so and Florida State won 4 of the 5 games. LSU won the first one, but after that, they didn't win a single game in that series. Just something I wanted to pass along to you for history.
Well, thank you. And by the way, Casey, one more addendum to that. In 1987, Bobby Bowden was interviewed for the Alabama job, wanted it, thought he had it, lost it. It ended up going to Bill Curry.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Curry didn't
imagine how
last
LSU or Alabama's history would be different. I've told this story before, but I'll tell it again. I interviewed the night Bowden didn't get it. I interviewed a board of trustee member at Alabama, and he said, "Well, we really like Coach Bowden. We just thought maybe he was a little too old, had a little too much baggage." Over the next 14 years, Bobby Bowden at Florida State never finished lower than number 4 in the final AP poll. Won a couple of national championships. Let's check out Larry, who is in Sweet Home, Alabama.
Yeah, baby. Hey, check it out, Paul. I figured Jim's favorite toppings, a couple of them be, let's see, liar, double dose of that, and an egotistical maniac. That's another topping. But listen, Big Ten John, glad to see you back. Would you look over at Mark and tell him just because he's redheaded don't make him Irish?
Just because you're redheaded doesn't make you Irish.
That's right.
I'm red-bearded, Larry. Red-bearded.
Redheaded. You got red hair. You probably dyed it, or you trying to. But them boys of yours, Notre Dame's going down, Jack. LSU's going to romp and stomp on them. Now, what do you say about that, Jack?
You want to make a little wager?
Yeah,
like you have to. What's a good wager for Larry on this?
He's got to come on and sing the Notre Dame Irish.
There
fight
it is.
song.
You have to sing. If Notre Dame wins, you have to come on and sing the fight song.
Yeah, I'll sing. I can sing now.
I bet you can. Voice of an angel.
My favorite song, Got Out of My Heart, Can't Get Out of My House Trailer. That's my favorite song. But check it out. Yeah,
who sang that one?
Yeah, and we're going to play golf. See that Rich is thinking. Big Ten John, you ain't going to do that on me, are you?
No, Larry, I'll play from the tips and you play from the senior tees.
Ooh. I play up, as far as I can. And just like the man said, play up and have fun. But I'm going to play up and have vengeance. I'm going to pound you about 5 or 10 strokes, Jack. You're going to be begging for mercy. Go, please, Larry, no more Larry from Shelby. Roll Tide. still there? Hello? Yeah, hung up on me again. Yeah.
You're listening to the Paul Finebaum Show podcast.
Glad you're with us. Been an entertaining show, and let's continue. How about Michael in South Carolina? Michael, good afternoon. Welcome to the show. Michael, you there?
I am here.
Well, good. Glad you made it.
Good afternoon. I hope you're doing well.
Thank you. I am.
I live here in the part of the South where in South Carolina you're either basically a Carolina or a Clemson fan. And all of the people I know that are Carolina fans, they kind of hang on the coattails of Alabama to get their self-worth, it seems. And I keep hearing all this conversation about Bama and Oklahoma, Bama and Georgia. And I personally think it's going to come down to Clemson and Georgia for the national championship. And I think the Dome in Atlanta is going to be rocking because I miss the days that Clemson and Georgia played each other every year.
Yeah,
those are some of the best games.
You're right.
And that's why I hate that they stopped it.
I think I may have been at the last one. It was 4 years ago at Clemson. Georgia played there in the opener. I'm pretty sure that was the last time they played, and it was amazing. I mean, that's a great rivalry. They played so many times on big stages, but nothing would compare to this one.
And usually it came down to probably 7 points or less just about every year.
No, it's not only important rivalry from a recruiting standpoint. It's a very important. I mean, these schools pretty much bump into each other, and a lot of players look at both. Hey, thank you very much for the call, Greg in Athens, Alabama, the centerpiece of the show today. Hello, Greg.
Hey, Paul. Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you.
Hey, Joe Carlucci's not only a great pizza maker, but he's a great individual. You get the chance to meet him.
I can't wait. No, I'm going to find my way to his pizza place one of these days.
Yeah, if you're coming north from Nashville, you just take the right exit on the 72, and he's right there on the left-hand side. And I can't eat a lot of pizza, but when I do, it's Joe. Joe's the bomb. So
I can and I will. So
I'm just glad that I was able to get you guys together. Anyways, I had a question about Jeremy Pruitt, and it just made me think about when Kirby Smart left, when he was still there as the new Georgia coach. When he's making visits, or is he only making visits as a Tennessee guy, or does he still have contact with Alabama recruits?
No. The moment you take another job, you're done recruiting. They're not going to let you recruit.
Right. Okay. And because I know there's been talk on a lot of different news sites about how his departure going to impact Alabama's recruiting. I don't know that it's going to have a major impact at all, but I just thought about that because I know when Kirby left, there was some acrimony over some of the people that he.
You're right about that, and but you know what? That's going to happen here too. There's no way you can avoid it. We're talking about one of the most competitive industries in the world in terms of in terms of sports, I should say. And he knows these players already, and whether you want to say it's unethical or not, it's just what you do.
Right. Well, I guess we'll find out here shortly what's going to happen. The last thing I wanted to say before I let you go is we've heard from Jim twice today, but I may have missed it, but normally when Jim calls, you have an obligatory squirrel call, and they become a sort of a fixture of each other. Maybe they ought to do a radio show. Well,
that shouldn't be hard to get a radio show. Pretty much everyone in America has one these days.
Well, they could at least do a blog or a podcast.
That's probably a more accurate statement. I mean, I literally walk down the street. My postal worker has a podcast.
Yeah. Well, hey, I'm glad I could get Joe with you guys. When he brings that oven down there, it's all about good times. And I hope that you guys have a chance to meet.
Hey, thanks, Greg. Always great to hear from you. Let's continue with more calls. Eric is in California. Good afternoon.
Hey, what's up, Paul? How are you doing today?
We are doing great.
That's awesome. I just wanted to give a shout-out real quick to my USC family, Jill and Joe. I love you guys. And Claudia, rest in peace. Go Trojans, fight on. But the theme today, Paul, seems to be about pizza. And I'm going to ask you, have you ever had Donato's Pizza?
I have. I sure have.
Isn't that the best pizza ever?
It is very good.
But I also wanted to make a case for my best friend Leo and his wife Leanne. They're diehard OU fans, and I was listening to you earlier. And I believe OU is clearly the number one team in the country. And I think the question you should ask is if Alabama or Georgia has a chance against them. And here's my position on why they don't.
Okay.
They both have a common opponent of Auburn, who got beat by LSU, who got beat by Troy. And when you're talking about Oklahoma's defense, having played Mason Rudolph and Hill from TCU, do you really think that defense is worried about a freshman named Jake Fromm? Go ahead, Paul.
Good stuff. I mean, listen. I understand that argument, but I also, it's a good one, and I'm not scoffing at it, but I'm a bigger believer in Georgia than you are.
Right. Yeah, I wasn't going to call you, Paul, but I was, earlier when you started talking about, it felt like you were saying that you thought that Georgia or Alabama you felt was stronger than Oklahoma, and I just thought, man, I got to give Paul a call on that because I don't see them even being in the game. Clemson, I think, is, arguably I agree that they're, number one, number two, Oklahoma, Clemson, but Alabama and Georgia, I just think the SEC is down this year, and
Eric, listen, I understand the SEC's down. They have 3 of the top 7 schools in the country.
You got me on that, Paul. You got me on that. You did.
Well,
and what do you think? You really think that I heard your caller earlier, I can't remember who it was, who was really believing that LSU was going to beat Notre Dame, even in that game. I mean, I look for Notre Dame probably to win that game big.
Yeah, listen, Eric, the only thing I will say about this time of the year, and I get it, I mean, what else do we have to do but other than look at the matchups and use whatever expertise we have? However,
right.
the layoff does have an impact. You just don't know how a team is going to react after spending a month off. I've seen crazy things in the playoffs, as you have. I've seen even crazier things in bowl games. I'm not trying to just say, oh, hey, by the way, anything can happen. That's ridiculous. I was watching some show yesterday, and they asked an expert, well, who do you think is going to win? The guy said, well, I don't know. I mean, you never know. I mean, well, that's what experts are supposed to do. They're supposed to give you an opinion. Yep. They're not supposed to tell you you never know. I get what you're saying. I do, but I just happen to disagree.
And Paul, hey, real quick too, because I know you're always pressed for time. I would have to say that I agree with you if I understood you right. Those players like Christian McCaffrey and Fournette, that rubs me the wrong way. I could understand if you're hurt and you really don't want to play in the game.
No, I mean, Eric, bowl games. I try to put yourself in the position of these players, and you're playing in the famous famous Idaho Potato Bowl on a Tuesday at 1:00 in the middle of nowhere, and I mean, if you're hurt or if you're banged up.
Well, no, that's what I mean, Paul. That's what I mean, Paul. I get it if you're hurt.
Yeah,
I'm talking about the guys that are saying that they're just not playing in the game.
Well, again,
because they're a senior. And my point on that is when you go to a university. Hold on.
Eric,
when you go to a university. When you go to a university, Paul, it's a fraternity. It's your brothers. You're a family.
Yeah. Hey,
and when you're a
let me ask you a question. Did you go to college?
Yes, I did.
Your last couple of weeks, your last couple of months, were you as engaged as your first couple of weeks?
Yes. Well, I mean, I played only a year, so.
Yeah. Well, I know. I'm not trying to relate. I mean, just related to anything. I mean, most of us didn't play at that level, but I know one thing. At some point, you're just kind of checked out, and if you're checked out, don't play. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, but it's a family, those are your brothers.
Is it a family? Hold on. Is it a family if your coach got fired? Is it a family if your coach left?
Yeah, no, I can agree with that. I can agree with that.
There are mitigating circumstances. Now, I thanks for the call. Now, I do think everything is different. Here I go running you over with cliches, but I just feel like if a player gets to a point and he doesn't want to risk injury and he's about to make millions of dollars, then good for him. You have to be careful. And I don't think, I think there are certain bowl games that really do matter. But the majority, how many bowl games are there? There are 40, 41 bowl games, something like that? I mean, are you telling me that some of these bowl games really matter? I mean, they're television events. Let's be honest. We had the guy on yesterday. They are made for TV. And if I don't want to see one of these young men, play for the old college team in some meaningless bowl game on a Tuesday afternoon before Christmas and lose his opportunity to support his family the rest of his life. That, to me,